Well, hey, what's going on? Welcome into another edition of Chatterbox Reds. Nick Kirby joined by Greg Kuffner, talking a little Cincinnati Reds baseball today. Greg, my friend, how you doing?
Doing good. Happy to be on. We got a big Eugenio Suarez home run, so fired up about that. Yeah, happy to talk Reds with you.
There was a lot of stuff to talk about, a lot of news and interesting things to kind of digest. So we'll kind of jump right into that and get to all that. Before we do that, I want to shout out our brand new sponsor here at Chatterbox Sports, our friends over at QC Kinetix. We're really excited about this new partnership. If knee pain or shoulder pain is slowing you down, slowing down your performance, whether it be on the golf course, the pickleball court, or even in the gym, talk to the care team at QC Kinetix Cincinnati about regenerative medicine options. You can learn more at qckinetix.com or call 513-655-3356. The team over there is absolutely incredible. They have a location in Liberty Township, actually right across from Lakota East High School. You know, there's so many people out there who think, I don't feel good right now. I need to get this addressed. Let's go get surgery. And while surgery can certainly be helpful, it's not always the answer. The folks at QC Kinetix bring a different approach with regenerative medicine, and you don't have to be an athlete. If you're just a weekend warrior here in Cincinnati dealing with some back pain or trying to get ready for the golf season, they can help. Check out the team at QC Kinetix and see what they're all about. Again, visit qckinetix.com or call 513-655-3356. All right, well, Greg, let's jump right into it here today. So, Eugenio Suarez hitting a home run for Venezuela, leading them to the World Baseball Classic final to take on Team USA on Tuesday night. Should be a great game in the World Baseball Classic. For me, it was just really exciting just to see Eugenio Suarez hit a bomb, look kind of like what you're hoping that Eugenio Suarez can be. Hasn't been great. I mean, not sugarcoat. He was 2 for 13 in spring training with the Reds. It was 2 for 12 in the World Baseball Classic before his performance on Monday. This also coming off a year last year. He was incredible overall, hit 49 home runs, but wasn't really all that good in Seattle after getting traded. So it was kind of starting to compile. I don't know how much you make out of this, but it was good to see him heading in the right direction.
Yeah, 100%. And I think you know what's interesting to me is he hasn't been getting a ton of playing time for Venezuela, but it seems like in the big games they're putting him in there, which is cool to see. And then he's hitting, he hits a big home run tonight to get them on the scoreboard. And to where I go from this is like, if Gino Suarez hits 215 this year, if he hits 40 home runs to go along with that 215, I'm going to be happy because that's what we missed as Reds fans last season. The guy who could take a 2-0 ball game like tonight and turn it to 2-1 or 1-0, turn it to 1-1, or if it's a guy on base, like that's what he is. He's not going to be a guy that's going to get on base at a 360, clip. But home runs are massive in today's game, and he showed that tonight. So I think it's kind of I think what we'll see from Gino a little bit this year. I don't know what he's going to do batting average wise. I don't know what he's going to do, on base wise. But if he hits 35 plus for home runs, I'm going to be pretty happy, I think.
He's got to hit 35 home runs where he's got to drastically increase his on-base percentage, or he's not a productive player at DH. So, like that's, again, and I've said many times before, this is a great signing because it's a one-year signing. There's not much risk in a one-year signing. You don't have to pay a buyout next year. Like it is what it is. He clearly gives the Reds some power. I think he actually raises their floor more than he raises their ceiling. I think a lot of people, it's a big home run, he raises their ceiling. I don't know how much you can actually raise their ceiling overall, because I think he's just a one-trick pony at this point, but the one trick's really, really good. But yeah, I don't know. I was a little bit concerned. Again, not going to be whatever happens this year. I'm not going to be angry at the Reds for signing if it goes completely south. If it becomes if he has this fountain of youth season and still has one incredible year left, I'm not going to sit here and go, oh yeah, Reds they pull one over on everyone. He's a risky signing, but it's a good risk for the Reds. Just obviously, in my opinion, it's good to see him looking like the Gino that we're hoping. And we'll just kind of see how this year plays out. But like I don't know. That's where I'm at. Like I do think there's risk here. I think like risk in terms of like him not being as great as everyone thinks, and the fact that I think he does still have to hit a lot of home runs because when you're sub 300 on base percentage, you gotta hit a lot of home runs as a DH, or you're not really that all that valuable of a player.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. And I do think, even seeing him go, have the post game press conference on the field, like he's just such an awesome guy to root for. And I do think, everything we've gotten out of Reds camp so far, it seems like for the time he was there before he left to be with Team Venezuela, like guys just kind of rallied around him. And he said, I think there's something to that. I know we all joked about the Jonathan India stuff when he was there for the longest time of like, does that matter? Does it not matter? And I don't know. We don't know the answer, the true answer to that. But we do know the Reds are a pretty young team, and Gino provides some of that. But again, I just think, like you said, I think he's going to hit home runs at Great American Ballpark. And if he does that, like you said, he should provide value to this team. It is just a little bit weird of him and even a guy like Kyle Nicholas, who the Reds traded for, and we haven't seen him yet for the Reds because he's been over pitching with Team Italy. It's just a little weird when they're playing with the World Baseball Classic teams, and we have new players who we're not used to seeing on the Reds, and they're really not with the Reds for most of spring. So that's been a little bit of a unique situation this spring that we don't see a whole lot.
Yeah, definitely a good point bringing that out. It was something I thought of and forgot to mention. Yeah, I assume Eugenio goes back to Goodyear for like 3 days. I don't know, or does he just join the Reds in Milwaukee? I don't really know what the protocol is. They're playing in Miami, right? That's where the game was tonight.
Yes.
Yeah, they're in Miami right now. So, yeah, I mean, it's gonna be if he's going back to Goodyear, it's literally. I'm assuming he would fly back Wednesday. I don't know. Does he get an extra day in Miami? Maybe they just send him up to Milwaukee. But yeah, Kyle Nicholas is certainly going to be a weird situation. I didn't have him on the rundown because there's so much to get to today, but looked really good in the World Baseball Classic. If he makes the opening day roster or not, I have no idea. He has options, so any guy that has options is always gets the short end of the stick a lot of the times because to protect you over 162. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do with him.
Yeah, for sure. It was good to see him pitch well tonight because he's a guy that probably a lot of Reds fans don't really know what to kind of expect from him. Obviously, the metrics show that he has pretty good stuff, kind of similar to Luis Mazak Maxwell. He can struggle with command a little bit here and there. It's just interesting because he's a guy that's you think is fighting for a roster spot. I know C. Trent in his latest roster projection had him not on the roster, which was interesting to me because I have a hard time feeling like the Reds would trade for someone like that and not put him on the opening day roster. But I don't know. It's the Reds have so many roster battles kind of still happening, which it makes spring training kind of more exciting than it has been in the past. It kind of makes it fun kind of going into this last week. There's so many, they got the fifth starter spot, they got the outfield position, which I know we're going to talk about in a little bit. And then they got the bullpen battle still kind of all happening. We really have essentially a week left.
I disagree with you a little bit. I think there's a real chance he's not on the opening day roster, and it's just more of manipulating the season. Because like Sam Moll is out of options, so you'd have to DFA him, and so it's like, is it worth DFAing Sam Moll just to put Kyle Nicholas on the roster when a reliever's going to get hurt in 2 weeks and you can call Nicholas right back up because he has that ability? I know Hagen Danners looked really good, and a lot of people are pushing for him to be on the roster. I assume he probably has one of those contracts where if the Reds don't put him on the opening day roster, he has the ability to go somewhere else. So I just think it kind of becomes a numbers game, and I think that the Reds, they traded for Nicholas because they liked him, but they were also trading a guy that was going to go down to AAA also. So it's like it could be just more of like a depth move, in my opinion. And again, if he's not on the opening day roster, I don't think that's all a knock on Kyle Nicholas. I think it's a depth thing. You'll see him soon. Trust me. These things always work themselves out.
Yeah, 100%. I think Sam Moll, especially after the Caleb Ferguson injury, is pretty much a lock, and he's been incredible in spring training. Yeah. I think he's pitched seven appearances without giving up a run, which has been awesome to see. I mean, when the Reds traded for him back in 23, he was incredible that last half of the season. I really think it comes down to the last spot, whether it's Hagen Danner. Is Connor Phillips a lock at this point? He's been pitching a little bit better of late. Luis May and Zach Maxwell have kind of been better of late after starting off really bad. But obviously those two guys, like you said, those guys have options. It's just interesting. It's going to be a really interesting final week, I think, to see what moves are made and then what we hear from like Terry Francona and Nick Krall, why the moves were made. Because I think we've talked about it a lot this spring. The Reds have probably more depth than they've had in a while, which obviously is a good thing.
Yeah, just going through the Fangraphs projected bullpen, they have Emilio Pagan, Tony Santillan, Graham Ashcraft, Pierce Johnson, Brock Burke, Sam Moll, Hagen Danner, they actually have on there, and Connor Phillips.
Okay.
Phillips and Ashcraft, the only of those that have options. So there's not a whole lot of guys with options. Most of those guys have to be on the big league roster, or you have to cut them. And again, we also still have over a week until the season starts, and another pitcher could have something flare up or have a short.
Don't put that out in the universe. Don't put that out in the universe.
we know it can happen. And so I think Kyle Nicholas and Luis May might end up on the roster, just because that's how these things work. All right, let's move along to the interesting saga of Chase Burns. So two kind of interesting things came out on Monday. First off, C. Trent did a projected roster. It was kind of his predictions. The word prediction and projected, whatever, take it how you will. But he predicted that Chase Burns will be not on the opening day roster. C. Trent said the Reds didn't like how Burns' arm was moving. C. Trent speculated that Brandon Williamson's strong spring could prompt the Reds to be cautious with Burns early this season. Now, Charlie Goldsmith, like a little bit later, reported that Francona said about Burns, he threw a really good bullpen yesterday. Derek Johnson was really pleased. It's part of the learning process. He's learning on the run. The good news is he's a good learner. How many innings he throws in the next Cactus League start will depend on his pitch counts in each inning. They're also working through how they're going to use the Milwaukee scrimmages with their pitching. If you remember the scrimmage last year in Dayton, they didn't use like any of the pitchers you would expect to see outside of maybe a couple relievers. But yeah, this is an interesting saga. I don't really know how to read into it. You could say that the Reds are just being overly cautious. Last year, they were crazily overcautious with Chase Burns. You might remember he pitched like one actual spring training game, like one inning. It wasn't on TV. It felt like they didn't want anyone to see this guy. Like they were kind of trying to keep him under wraps. I don't know if there actually is an injury. I have no idea. How do you read this whole situation?
Yeah, well, I'm going to preface this with I don't have sources, so like I'm not talking to anyone within the Reds, so take that for what you will. But like I watched Chase Burns talk to the media after his start, and he basically let it on like I'm fine. There's nothing wrong with me. The Reds want to be careful with me, which I think has some merit to it. Like if Chase Burns says he's fine, I like to believe he's pretty much fine and he's going to go pitch. And then you heard Terry Francona the next day, and he kind of just said, "Hey, we're be careful. We want to, deload was the word that everyone freaked out about." and he said something like he may pitch one less inning in his first start of the year, which to me is like it's kind of to me is saying that Terry Francona thinks he's going to pitch in the first start of the year and one of the first starts of the year. It also kind of tells me like it's not that big of a deal. So I think where I'm going with this is I think everybody saw that C. Trent left him off the roster and everybody just lost their mind, whether it's prediction, projection, whatever. What I gathered from Burns' comments, what I gathered from Terry Francona's comments, I would be shocked if Chase Burns is not on the opening day roster. I just feel like it's not as big of a deal as people. But again, I'm not talking to anyone. That's just me going off of the quotes that I heard of both of those guys talking to the media. I don't know, but that's kind of where I'm at the moment.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. I could see them leaving him off the roster and him, maybe doing. There was another pitcher that did something very similar to this in recent memory that I can't. It might have been Abbott. Was slow last year or the year before.
Last year.
And then
Last year he was
they do like a
off.
couple like simulated games, and he ended up joining the team like 3 weeks into the season. I could see that happening with Burns as a way to kind of, um, you know, elongate his season in some ways. Um, this is where I'm at. I don't really have an issue if the Reds are leaving off Chase Burns off the opening day roster if it's to strategically get him through the season, like if it's part of the plan. The thing that I thought was just crazy is like we go to camp and there's this competition for the spot. Like, come on, like there's no competition with Chase Burns. Like he's as talented of a pitcher as there is, but we also know he's not going to pitch. He's not going to throw. He's not going to make 32 starts this year. I think we all know that. So if the Reds feel like it's better for them to kind of manipulate it early in the year while they have the rest of these starters, they feel healthy, I don't have an issue with that. I really don't. And I feel like Derek Johnson, in my opinion, has kind of earned the right if he wants to play it that way. I think he's proved it last year with how the starters held up, and don't forget the Reds starting pitching held up, and the New York Mets starting pitching did not, and that's why the Reds made the playoffs and the New York Mets did not. So I do think Derek Johnson has kind of earned a little bit of respect in that regard. I don't have an issue with it. I just had an issue with the whole competition because it sounded bogus to me.
Yeah, well, I think part of where I'm coming from too a little bit is like there was another quote that Terry Francona said, and I think I mentioned this on with Trace last night, is about Brendan Williamson, and it was almost like, hey, he's got to kind of work back, and like it was one of those quotes like, and maybe it's us just reading into things too much, but it was one of those quotes. It was kind of feels like, is he saying like Brandon Williamson's not quite ready? To me, I almost read it like, hey, we want to go get him like some extra innings, maybe in AAA or whatever. To which then it's like, well, one of those guys has to be in the rotation. You need one of those two guys to be in the rotation. Maybe not. I don't know, but it's that's kind of it. That's kind of was just another needle kind of in the haystack that I was reading into of like, what does that mean? What does it mean for these two guys? And if Williamson's not healthy, you think Burns is going to be ready, but I don't know. I don't know. It's all very weird.
Unless they're going to do something kind of creative where they're going to like try to stack starts or something. I know Derek Johnson has been very much against the 6-man rotation. So like I don't think that's an option. I personally have no issue. Like the Brewers do the 6-man rotation all the time, and the results seem to work pretty well. So I get, but I believe in Derek Johnson. I think he's proven enough to this point to believe in him. But I could see maybe a situation where Brandon Williamson is just like a bulk pitcher to start the year, and like he's strategically available on Burns' starts. It makes sense maybe if they almost like spread out Louder and Burns and tried to have Williamson be able to pitch with both of those guys. Maybe I don't know. I could see Williamson being used in a creative role. That was kind of what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I would love that. I think I've said it a couple times this offseason. Like, if you can have a guy like Nick Martinez, like the Reds had last year, that gives you multiple innings out of the bullpen and then can give you a spot start if you need it, like, I think that is so valuable in a day and age where you're trying to protect guys' arms. We've had Pagan and Santillan throw 7 million games last year. Like, I think if you can have a guy like there, and Brandon Williams has been fantastic this spring, and I thought his quote was awesome about like, I'm getting on that plane. Like that's awesome. That's what you want to hear as, you know, as a guy competing for a role. So I have a hard time believing that they're actually going to move him to the bullpen, but I would love to be wrong. I would love to see him in that role. And then you have a guy that, like, if you have to take Burns, you know, out a little early or louder to limit their pitch load, like you bring in another guy that can give you 2-3 innings. And then you get to the 7th, 8th inning guys. Like that is a big deal, I think, in today's game.
Yeah, I kind of thought they would send Williamson down to AAA just to have another starter ready, but maybe they feel like if he's doing 2 or 3 innings at a time, it's not that big of a transition if he has to go back into the rotation. But you do look up and down this bullpen. There's not a whole lot of guys that really inspire confidence that could go multiple innings in that bullpen. Like it's not just, you didn't just lose Nick Martinez, you also lost Brent Suter, who
Yep.
was the guy anytime you needed 3 innings mopped up. Here comes Suter. I don't see a lot of guys that I see a lot of guys in here that sometimes struggle to throw enough strikes to pitch 2 innings. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I could definitely see them maybe trying to be creative with Williamson there.
Yeah, and you're spot on. And like I think when we talk about the bullpen, one thing that we don't talk about enough is when you're down 4 runs in the fourth inning and you need a pitcher to go out there like Brent Suter, like that's valuable to give 2 or 3 innings out when you're down and you're not wasting your good pitchers that you need for the next 2 days. I think those kind of pitchers, I don't know why this name comes to mind, but like the long reliever has kind of, that they don't teams don't really stock a long reliever, but like I think of like a Matt Belisle back in the day, who back in the day, like he was a guy that would come in and just like you needed a long reliever, he'd come in and give you 3, 4 innings. But that's kind of like you said was Brent Suter. And you're right, the Reds don't have that guy on the roster currently, so maybe that's what Will Williamson would kind of fill in as. But either way, it's just I feel like this is the most fascinating like last week in camp that I can remember in quite some time when it comes to like true difficult roster decisions.
Yeah, we do have one decision that's coming up that kind of did solidify at least part of how you're going to see the lineup on opening day. But yeah, you also might just see the Reds just do a shuttle bus of Graham Ashcraft, Connor Phillips, Zach Maxwell, Luis May, Kyle Nicholas, all the guys with options. Just, you keep going back and forth. You throw 3 days in a row, you go out of Louisville, take a break for a couple weeks, we'll call you right back up. A lot of teams do that. I know there's a limit. It's 5 times a year that you can do that now, but I don't think the Reds have ever come close to hitting that limit. So I don't know if you're worried about that. All right, let's move right along because we still got like 3 more topics to get to. Greg, I said, yeah, we'll do like 10 minutes. Yeah, right. Cincinnati legend Anthony Munoz has a new venture, and we're fired up to partner with it here on Chatterbox Reds. Introducing 78 Cigars, a premium cigar line from the Hall of Famer himself. If you love great cigars and Cincinnati football history, this is the perfect combination. You can grab 78 cigars right now at both Montgomery Inn locations and over at Creekside Cigar Company. Or you can check them out online. Just head to anthonymunoz.com and click on the 78 Cigars page to learn more and order today. That's 78 Cigars from the greatest offensive lineman to ever do it, Anthony Munoz. We also want to remind you that you can call or text 988 anytime, day or night. The 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is a place to get support for anything related to mental health. Whether it's an immediate crisis, simply wanting to find out how to connect with care, or anything in between, it's a 100% confidential, secured, anonymous way to reach out for help when you don't know where else to turn. To connect, call or text 988 or visit mantherapy.org to get help. It's okay not to be okay. Andrew Abbott, he struggled a little bit, Greg. Gave up 8 hits and 8 earned runs on Monday. He actually exited the game in the 3rd inning without getting an out because of his pitch count. Came back out in the 4th and didn't get anyone out. So the final 7 batters he faced all reached base. And it was not the A lineup for the Diamondbacks either. There was like 1 or 2 starters in the lineup. 13.85 ERA. He's given up 5 home runs in 13 innings. I know Abbott has struggled a lot in spring training. This feels a little bit more. The most concerning thing to me is I don't have the quote in front of me, but after Abbott's last start, he said something like, "All right, I've been working on things. Now it's go time." And again, it's spring training, but this wasn't the go time I don't think we're looking for. And he also sounded a little discouraged after the start too.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. That is exactly what I was going to talk about. When a guy says, "Okay, like I'm done working on stuff. I'm going to go get him," and then gets absolutely shelled the next game, you're like, "Okay, I'm not so sure. I shouldn't be a little worried." And like you said, he pretty much said, I think in his post game today, that he was a little discouraged. And he's going to keep grinding, and hopefully the results come. But I was watching today, and I was like, okay, the first 2 batters I think got a hit. They scored on a sacrifice fly, but he did pretty good at limiting the damage. I was like, all right, okay, just keep going. The second inning was okay, and then the 3rd and 4th inning, you're like, what is happening? And that's what I think I tweeted out. I was like, okay, I'm not afraid to admit, like, I'm a little worried about Andrew Abbott. As much as we say spring training results don't matter, like it's whatever, 6 starts in now, and he has just looked terrible. And I don't know. He could in 9 days from now, he could go out there and throw 6 innings of 1-run baseball, and we're like, what did we worry about? But it's just, that's the whole nature of spring training. It's so hard to sit there and watch a guy give up 8 runs and just be like, no worries. It's no big deal. Like, that's what we're supposed to expect. And then we watch Matt McLain hit 500. Like, we know he's not going to hit 500, obviously, but we're like, oh, this guy's back. It's just spring training is so hard to judge guys by because you don't know. Again, like Abbott said, he's out there. He wants to go get guys out and he's not working on stuff, but like clearly he's still trying to work through some stuff out there. And he's not 100% confident with his stuff and stuff. So it's just so hard. It's just so hard to judge results in spring training, but I'm not afraid to admit today officially got me slightly worried about Andrew Abbott.
Yeah, with you. I'm definitely not betting any Andrew Abbott prop bets on opening day because if this guy throws 7 shutouts against the Red Sox, not going to shock me. He somehow does this every year where he outpitches every metric known to mankind. And at some point, that is what you are. But I'm with you. Today was like, okay, I'm officially concerned now. This is a lot. This is not just, you're not having a bad spring. This is another level of that. And he's kind of was his own worst enemy because he said the last time, hey, it's go time and then this. So we'll see. But yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is like with the uncertainty with Burns, with Hunter Green out for a long time, you need Andrew Abbott and Nick Lodolo to step up because I think Brady Singer is a good pitcher, but I don't think we expect that there's like another gear with Brady Singer. He kind of is that steady workhorse, and that's great. But those two guys, I mean, I feel like they've got to kind of be on their game, or this Reds pitching that we're so excited about, it's not as big of a strength.
Yeah, 100%. Like, if Chase Burns and Rhett Lauder, even if it's Williamson, 2 of those guys make the rotation, like, you're going to have ups, you're going to have downs. Like, we can't sit there and think they're going to just be unbelievable all season long. Like, they're just so young. They're so inexperienced. So with that being said, like, you need your experienced guys of Abbott and Lodolo to be really solid. And that's what worries me a little bit about Abbott's spring so far okay, and it's funny to say that because of all the pitchers in the rotation, obviously Brady Singer's been very solid, but Abbott has been almost as solid as everybody. Like, he's just the guy that it feels like he really never goes out there and gets shelled. His bad outings, there might be 6 innings, 4 runs type of deal. So to see what he's happened like today, 2 innings and 8 runs, you're just like, it's just hard to look at and not be concerned, I guess. But again, that's the nature of spring training. But I'm totally with you. Like, I think the Reds have to expect, and they need, Abbott and Lodolo to really lead the pitching staff, and kind of hope, Lauder, Burns, or Williamson, whoever's behind them, to just kind of do what they do. But they need those 2 guys to really step up in a big way.
All right, one player that has just had an incredible spring, Matt McLain. He's literally leading spring training in just about every offensive category across the board. Terry Francona said he is going to bat second. He's going to be my number 2 hitter. He's a lock, something of that nature. He's batting second. So we now know Friedl, McLain, Ellie is your 1, 2, 3 in the order. We assume Suarez is your number 4, which is kind of wow. I don't think we've really had a set lineup like that in quite a while where you knew who the top 4 guys would be in the lineup. I said earlier, like, I think Matt McLain is clearly the best version of Matt McLain is your best option to split Friedl and Ellie, which we talked about was so important with the right-handed bat. So I don't really have an issue with this. My only concern, or my only thing that what's a concern, it's more of something that annoys me, is that Sal Stewart's going to be batting like 5th or 6th. And I think Sal Stewart is maybe the Reds' second best hitter against right-handed pitching, and I think he's the Reds' best hitter against left-handed pitching. And I don't really love him batting that low in the lineup. That's kind of my only issue with this. But I love what Matt McLain's doing. I think he deserves a shot there. I think he makes the most sense if you're going Friedl and Ellie, which I've already said I don't like. So
yeah, it's funny. I think it might have been my first show with Chatterbox earlier in the spring. I said, like, we were talking about the 2-hole in the lineup when Francona was saying, oh, maybe Marte, but he doesn't hit lefties well, blah, blah, blah. I said, I don't think McLain is going to hit there even if he has a great spring, just because, like, Tito said all offseason he's left Matt McLain in the 2-hole way too long. So I was just like, he's going to correct that. He's going to be like, but I guess when you hit 600 in the spring, I guess that changes your thought process. He joked. I think he said he made the decision 4 weeks ago. Yeah, it's one of those things. Like, I'm with you. I mean, I would love Ellie De La Cruz and Sal Stewart to get as many as bats as possible, but if McLain is anything like the version of he was in 2023, like, he slots in great in the 2-hole. If he's any version of what he was last year, I hope they correct that pretty quickly, because you can't. Last year he put him in there through, I don't know what it was, July, August, and we're like, you just can't keep putting him up there. But again, he's just been so good this spring that it's hard to blame Tito, because like you said, when he's hitting like this and he's at his best, it does feel like he makes a lot of sense. He brings speed. He's a good base runner. He can hit for some power in the 2-hole. He does feel like just a typical type of 2-hitter. So I don't really have anything against it. I'm kind of cool with it. But if it goes poorly and we're in the middle of April or the end of April, like, let's move on from that fast and not just be so stubborn and just stick with it. So that's kind of my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I think the only other option was Sal Stewart, and it would be kind of weird to have Sal Stewart hitting in front of Ellie. And again, this is because you kind of use this lineup, which again, I've made my peace. I'm not going down that rabbit hole again. But I do think the Phillies went with Schwarber and then Trey Turner behind him. So somehow that worked out for them. Schwarber didn't clog the bases too much behind a fast runner. But I don't have a problem. The most positive thing about Matt McLain, like, he did not hit well last spring at all. I think he had like an 85 WRC plus. But the biggest thing, this was first brought up by Mike Hart. Great find by him. Last spring, Matt McLain struck out 17 times and only walked twice. This spring, he's only struck out 4 times and he's walked 5 times. So it's not just the home runs that have obviously been the big sexy thing that he's done this spring, but the entire approach at the plate feels different. And again, you're right. He's not going to hit 500, but I'm not so sure he's not going to hit 280. Like, I thought he's probably like, a 240, 250 hitter. That kind of is what he is. Plays good defense. I don't know. He might be closer to that 2023 Matt McLain than we thought. We'll have to see when opening day starts and we play games that actually count. But I don't see any reason why you shouldn't be ecstatic over Matt McLain right now, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, totally with you. I think the strikeout thing was actually, I was writing something earlier today and I saw that popped out to me. It was like 43 plate appearances and only 4 strikeouts. And like, that caught my eye. Of kind of like, holy cow.
17
that's
last year.
incredible. Yeah. Like, that is, like you said, that's clearly he's changing things. He's found something that he's confident with. He's hitting the ball hard. I mean, he's just crushing the baseball. Like, yesterday, his home run was against, I think it was George Kirby from the Mariners, who's like a very good pitcher. It's not like he's just all of his home runs have been. Yeah, he's not just hitting all of his home runs against scrubs. So, like, I think it's definitely something that we should be excited about. Hopefully, it continues into the spring training. But again, you never know with spring training. But yeah, I'm cool with starting him in the 2-hole, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah, Matt McLain in 2023 was incredible against against left-handed pitching. So that aspect of it really helps out, in my opinion, Friedel and Ellie, if he's anywhere able to be that. 2023, he had a 995 OPS against lefties. Even last year, he was still had an OPS last year of 679, which was over 50 points higher than against right-handed pitching, and his on-base percentage was up to 328. It's only 291 against lefties or against righties. So he's been significantly better throughout his entire career against lefties. So that aspect of it, I think, even if he's not anywhere close to as good as we've seen in spring, I still think he does provide a little bit of a balance there. All right, one last thing to talk about, Greg. Blake Dunn officially optioned. He had a rough camp. Again, get ready, Blake. I think we'll see you at some point down the road. But the Reds just kind of have this outfield situation with Benson, with Dane Myers, with J.J. Bleday, with Noelvi Marte, with Spencer Steer, somewhere in that mix. I don't want to go too far into this because we could do a whole show on this itself. But Noelvi Marte's kind of struggling in camp. I don't think. I have a hard time believing they're going to pull the plug on Marte and not have him be the opening day starting right fielder, or at least the primary right fielder. But it's tough to keep all these guys like Nate Lowe, J.J. Bleday, Will Benson, keep multiple of these guys on the bench against right-handed pitching.
Yeah, for sure. I think this is the most fascinating battle, because every day when we're tweeting about these games and watching whether it's on TV or the box score, it feels like today was a perfect example. Nathaniel Lowe goes out there and hits a home run, and then all of a sudden J.J. Bleday later in the game hits a home run. And it feels like when Benson's in the lineup, like he'll do something and then Bleday will do something or Lowe will do something. Like these guys just kind of keep like stacking good results over one another. And it's like I've said this to you before, but like any other year, all three of these guys are on the roster, no problem. And I'm with you. I think Marte's kind of showed enough in the last week or so that he's going to be. I think he's going to be there.
And he was just the top prospect. Like it's
exactly. He's got so much upside. And like he played pretty well last year. He struggled a little bit at the end of the year, but to me, it comes down to those three of Bleday. Like Reese Hines has been amazing, but I don't think he's going to make it.
Hey, we didn't even mention him. He's been incredible.
Yeah, exactly. Lowe, Benson, and Bleday. And I think I talked a little bit about this with Trace last night. It just feels like, to me, Lowe is kind of like almost like the Sam Mole in this equation of he's definitely got one of those opt-outs, we assume, of like if he doesn't make the roster, he's probably going to be picked up by somebody else. And he probably has an opt-out of, hey, I'm not going to go down to AAA. Like I'm a former Silver Slugger and Gold Glover, whatever. Where Bleday and Benson, those two they're kind of similar players, and it feels like you can send one of those guys down. I don't know. It's just it's a hard decision. Like those three, I don't think I would be mad about any of the two you pick. I think I'd be like, okay, let's roll with whatever two you pick. Which I can't say there's been many like roster battles in the past that haven't had like a hard stance, like I want this guy and this guy. And those three, I feel like I can go back and forth with all three of them on any given day, because you could go upside. Like I think Bleday has a ton of upside as a former, top pick. Nathaniel Lowe, I think his floor is really low. Like he's been solid against right-handed pitching every year in his career. So you could look at it 100 different ways, but it's just it's so fascinating to me, and it feels like every day one of those guys is doing something significant to be like, oh, well, he should clearly get the opening day roster, and then two at bats later, the other guy does something.
If Noelvi Marte could hit left-handed pitching well, it'd be a slam door case closed, I think, in my opinion. I don't think they're going to send Marte down, but I think there should be a conversation, if I'm being honest, kind of with the way these guys have all played. To me, I think you have to put Lowe on the roster because it doesn't. If you're playing Marte just about if Marte's up here, he has to play close to every day. Like you're not gonna put Marte on the roster to sit on the bench. Like he's a young kid that needs at bats. Like so that just doesn't work. And so like you can't really play Benson and Bleday, so it kind of has to be one of them. You have to be one of them in my opinion, because you want the other guy that isn't to get at bats every day. Whereas Nate Lowe, he's one of the whoever that lefty is going to sit on the bench. They're not going to play much. And so it just makes more sense, in my opinion, to keep Nate Lowe around, to make sure you keep him around. I think he probably would be a better, more polished hitter in late game situations than Bleday or Benson, who I think got probably a little bit more swing and miss. Nate Lowe, the whole veteran pinch hitter, kind of feels like a Tito thing, and I don't blame him for that. But yeah, I mean, you're splitting hairs with Benson and Bleday, and who's been better? Bleday has a better average. Benson has a better on-base percentage. Benson has a better slugging. Their OPS is Benson's 1,056, Bleday's 1,024. So both of those guys have certainly done everything they can to earn it. I mean, I'm the biased homer here, but for me, it's Will Benson because he plays better defense, and I think you feel way more comfortable with him in center field than you feel about Bleday, a guy who really they had to move off of center field in Oakland, whereas with Benson, you'd feel comfortable if he had to play center field. So for me, it would be Benson. But man, it sucks for JJ Bleday. Like, it just sucks that he's the odd man out. But I think that's what it's come down to.
Do you think, and not to get off the Benson Blade, but just this outfield as a whole, do you think Noel V. Marte is a guy that, like, do you think the left-handed thing is, like, actually something he's really going to struggle with throughout his career? Or do you think, like, because I look at it and I'm like, take a PED year, and I'm just like, take that whole year out of it. Like, that year was just that was craziness. He basically said he was trying to come back and do too much and whatever. Take that for what it's worth. But so last year, you're looking at he was up and down at the beginning of the year, and then obviously he struggled against lefties when he was playing a lot. To me, some of that feels fluky, but I don't know. I haven't seen like his splits in the minors or anything to know that. So maybe you could look at me and say, well, in the minors he's always struggled against lefties. So I just want to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I typically tend to agree that when you see results like that, they're fluky, but his minor leagues are the same. Like,
they're bad.
Yeah,
Okay.
they were bad, but he was significantly better. I mean, most guys in the minor leagues, you're going to have good numbers in the minor leagues if you get to the big leagues. But like,
Yeah.
just for 2021, for example, he had an 838 OPS against right-handed pitching, 770 against lefties. Now, again, this is a small sample. This is only 85 at bats against lefties, but this is year after year after year after year. And I've looked through like the Statcast numbers, like expected weighted on base average. It also says he's better against right-handed pitching than lefties. So
yeah.
Again, that he might correct that. There's something I'm sure in his swing that is the result of why he's better against one-handedness versus the other. But it's definitely there right now, and definitely makes this a much more complex situation. Because I'll just be honest, like, if you had to tell me right now, right-handed pitcher is coming to the plate, I have the bases loaded, or right-handed pitcher on the mound, I have the bases loaded, 2 outs in the ninth, and I have Benson, Bleday, Lowe, or Marte. I think Marte's the fourth guy I'm picking out of that. And that's against the right-handed pitching, and he has no value against left-handed pitching right now. So that's where it's tough. And he hasn't looked good defensively either. Like, he hasn't looked. He can get there, but he's not. He's not there yet either. Like, I feel like he has more upside than Bleday defensively. Certainly more than Spencer Steer, Will Benson. I don't know. Flip a coin on those two. But he's not there yet.
Yeah, for sure. I've kind of been frustrated that they've been playing him in some center field. Like, I'd be all for
just learn right field first.
Marte. Yeah, I'm like, I'd be all for Noel V. Marte being the future center fielder, but they're out there saying like he hasn't been good in right field. I was like, can we keep playing him in right field? Yeah. You have TJ Friedel and Dane Myers who are going to play basically
and Will Benson if you need to.
Field. Yeah, like we don't need to just put him in there to be like, oh, if he's struggling that much in right field, play him every single inning in right field and get the reps. Like, that part has kind of frustrated me, but whatever, we're just splitting hairs at this point. But yeah, interesting discussion. The outfield battle. I'm so fascinated to see what direction they go with in the next week or so. And we didn't even talk about Spencer Steer. Like, he's kind of struggling this year. Spencer Steer, he's not battling for a position. But like, he's a guy that is locked in there, but like, what does it look like in a month and a half if Spencer Steer struggles? Like, I don't know, but it's another guy that you throw into the equation because basically on this roster, he's an outfielder. It feels like, so that's just a whole nother wrench in to kind of the plans.
Yeah, well, I think it's very clear that Spencer Steer should not be starting in the outfield against right-handed pitching over the options they have right now, unless something drastically changes. But I don't know if Terry Francona agrees with that, which also just makes the whole who plays where more complex. Because, like, in that scenario, there's not a spot for either Benson or Bleday. Like, neither one of them have a spot. So it is a crazy discussion. But with Noel Marte. Like, if Noel Marte goes opening day and has 1,000 OPS in April, like, everyone's like, see, told you, your spring trade doesn't matter, doesn't. But if he comes out and he starts out 0 for 20, yeah, we knew he was struggling. Why'd they put him in the opening day? Like, you feel like they're damned if they do, they're damned if they don't with Noel Marte. I will give them that.
Yeah, 100%. And I think for the most part, you've seen. I like to give him the benefit of the doubt. Like, you've seen growth there, and think he just has so much upside that when he's good, he's just really good. And you like to think the defensive thing is a question. There's no doubt about that. He just looks like he's not fully comfortable out there. But we'll see. I mean, I don't think to me, like if you send a guy like Noah Marte down to the minors, like to me, it's almost like resetting everything you you did with him. Like you got him finally in a position where you're like, this is your position, and then all of a sudden you just be like, hey, buddy, sorry to break it to you, but you're going down to AAA. Like you break all of his confidence at that point. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't think it's worth it. I don't think it's worth the squeeze, and I don't think they're going to do that. I feel like I said, he's hit better over the last week or so, hit a couple extra base hits, some home runs. But we'll see. It's just so fascinating. It's a fascinating discussion, and it's good that it's a good problem to have, I guess, that they have some depth for a change.
Yeah, but it's good. It's always a healthy thing when you're sending a good players down to AAA and you're having to cut players that hurt you to cut. It certainly beats the alternative, which we've seen far too often here in Cincinnati. All right, well, Greg, this has been a lot of fun. You're heading out to Arizona, so have a safe trip out there, and we'll get a full report from you when you come back on all the happenings down there. Before we leave today, I do want to tell you about a really cool partnership the Chatterbox Sports just got underway. We are now partnering with Homage, and we have a special 20% off site-wide discount code for the first 100 listeners. Now, some exclusions apply, like the starter jackets and stuff like that. Those aren't included in there. But all the great T-shirts, sweatshirts, all their standard stuff that you see, all 20% off. They have obviously great Reds collections, all local Cincinnati teams. And you can use the code CHATTER at homage.com/CBOX at checkout. That's promo code CHATTER, CHATTER, at homage.com/chatterbox. The link to that is in the episode notes below on podcast, and it's in the YouTube description as well. But again, really happy to be partnering with Homage. If you're watching on YouTube, I have a Homage shirt on right now that I've been rocking. I've actually had the shirt for like 3 or 4 years, so like the quality of the stuff's good. Like, you buy a lot of T-shirts, and like, yeah, after 5 washes, it's toast. This bad boy, man, I've still been rocking it. So really excited about that partnership. And again, it's only the first 100, so check that at homage.com /CBOX code chatter to get 20% off. Well, we'll be back again soon. Continue talking spring training all off season long. Of course, podcast the morning after every single spring training game. So pretty much that's every day up until opening day. We'll even have a episode for you on opening day morning. So be locked in. Chatterbox Reds. Thanks, Greg. Go Reds.